Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Myers with a lesson on order of operations. So today we're going to review something you've probably already learned before and from the activity we did in class. Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Myers with a lesson on order of operations. As you saw in class today, the order in which we evaluate an expression does impact the answer that we get. So we're going to review the order that we're going to follow when evaluating numerical expressions. So let's go ahead and get started. You should have your foldable in front of you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the order. So I'm going to go down here and talk about this little acronym here, GEMDAS. Okay, I know a lot of you have learned PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. But today, instead of parentheses, we're going to include all grouping symbols. So the G is going to stand for grouping. We're going to talk about what those grouping symbols are in a moment. And the mnemonic that we can remember is instead of please, we're going to say grandma. So instead of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we're going to put grandma in there. So the next step, once we've evaluated the expression with grouping symbols, we're going to go to exponents. We're going to evaluate any exponents. And the E that goes for that is excuse. Helps us remember the order. M would be multiplication or multiply. We're going to multiply anything in the expression. So this would be my. And then D is for division or divide, which would be dear. A is for addition, aunt. Okay, for the mnemonic to help you remember. And then S, of course, is last. That's going to be our subtraction. And this is where we have Sally. And so we have this order here that we follow in the order of operations. And then the mnemonic that we can help to remember is grandma excused my dear Aunt Sally. So GEMDAS. Now, before we get to talking about this in a little more detail, I want to point out something. With multiplication and division, division sometimes comes first before multiplication. Same with addition and subtraction, depending on the order that the operation is in the problem. And we'll talk about this as we go through our examples. Let's go ahead and go to the right side. We're going to go to the right side and we're going to actually look in detail what these symbols look like. So we're going to start with our G. So our G would be our grouping symbols. There are a variety of grouping symbols. The main ones that you've probably learned about are going to be your parentheses, right? You can color those in. So parentheses are one of our grouping symbols. We also have brackets. We have braces. We also have the square root sign. So if you have an expression, let's say 2 plus 7 inside the square root sign, you're actually going to treat this as a grouping. So you're going to add 2 and 7 before you find the square root. So this is an example of another grouping symbol. Yet another grouping symbol would be your fraction bar. Your fraction bar. So if you had 5 plus 7 up here and a 2 on the bottom, order of operations says that this here, with this fraction bar, it actually groups those two numbers together. So the 5 plus 7 are kept together by this fraction bar. So the fraction bar is actually a grouping symbol. So we would evaluate 5 plus 7 before we divide by 2. So now you can see we have several different grouping signs that you need to keep in mind when evaluating expressions. All right, next we have, of course, the E stands for exponents. So our exponent, we've been working with squares a lot with our perfect squares, but we also have exponents that can be bigger than 2. You also have exponents with powers of 10. So we had 10 to negative powers when we worked with powers of 10 in scientific notation. But whenever you see an exponent in a problem, you're going to evaluate that after you evaluate the grouping symbols or the operations that are included inside the grouping symbols. Next, we have multiply. So we're going to just say multiply. And multiplication can be represented. We have our multiplication sign like this. You may also see it with a dot, right? You have a dot for multiplication. You may also have two numbers together with parentheses, like 4 times 3. That also means multiply. You may, when we get to evaluating expressions with algebraic expressions, you may have two letters that are next to each other like this, AB, and this would mean we're multiplying A times B when you have two variables next to each other. So these are different ways we show multiplication. Another one would be the little star or the asterisk, like 6 times 3. That means multiplication. So we have a variety of ways of showing multiplication. Now notice that we have the word or. We have the word or because we're going to multiply or divide whichever comes first in an expression. So division, or to divide, we have our division bar, our division sign here. But we also may see division like this, like 9 divided by 3. You may see the slash, especially when you're working on a computer with the keyboard. You may also see it this way, 12 with the fraction bar over 4. This also means to divide. So again, we're going to multiply or divide whichever comes first in the expression. All right, lastly, we have addition or subtraction. So we have addition or add, and that obviously is our addition sign. And we have words to go with that we'll talk about later. And then our last step is going to be to subtract. And again, we have the or here. So it's whichever comes first in an expression is what we're going to do. And I know you guys have practiced these before, so we're just reviewing the order that we follow when evaluating expressions. All right, we're going to go back to this part of the notes, and we're going to get into this grouping. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about the grouping because we're going to have more than one grouping symbol. We have different grouping symbols. We're going to start first with our parentheses. So when you have an expression that has parentheses inside, brackets and braces, you're going to do the parentheses first. The parentheses are going to be the furthest within the expression. So you're going to evaluate the parentheses. And then after you've evaluated what's in the parentheses, you're going to go on to the brackets, which look like this. And then third, you're going to evaluate the braces that are going to be on the outermost. So if you need grouping symbols within an expression, 3 different ones, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to use these 3. And I guess something to help you remember would be parents, P for parentheses, B, brackets, brother, and B, baby. I mean, basically, you can just look within the expression. So if I have something like, let's see, I have braces on the outside, and then I would have maybe brackets here. So you see I have 3 different symbols there. And you would solve first here what's in parentheses. Then you would evaluate what's in the brackets. And then finally you'd evaluate the whole expression which is contained within the braces. And we could even have like +4 here at the end. So you start outer, you go to the inner to outer. All right, let's take a look at the practice problem that we have here. So let's talk about the order. We have 2 different grouping symbols here. We have brackets and parentheses. We're going to start, it says here to start with the parentheses. So we're going to do the 9 minus 4, and we are going to show our steps. So we're going to do the 9 minus 4 first, which is 5. So I'm going to just bring everything else down. I'm going to do 1 step at a time, just like that. So the next step I've done the 9 minus 4, and I got 5. Now I'm going to do what's in the brackets, which is 6 minus 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. I'm going to rewrite, bring everything else down to kind of make a inverted triangle here. And then next, of course, we're looking, we did our grouping, right? And now we're going to go to exponents. So we have the 3 squared here. So we have 4 times 9 plus 10 divided by 5. And take a look, with order of operations, you have a really complex, long problem. And by taking it one step at a time, it doesn't seem as complicated. It's simple when we do one step at a time. So now we have multiplication, we have addition, we have division. We're going to do the multiplication first because it comes first in the problem. So 4 times 9 is 36 plus 10 divided by 5. So I'm just bringing down the numbers in the same order that they are in the problem as I evaluate a piece of it. And then now we have 2 different sections here. So we either have 36 plus 10 or 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is going to come next. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. So we have 36 plus 2. And we're going to evaluate that. That's our last step. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And that's going to be 38. Okay. We have our practice problem. We have our different ways of remembering our order of operations. And now we've reviewed the order of operations, and you need to keep these in mind when we are evaluating expressions in class.